This is Fantology.
You may have heard of us.
All right, what's up, Blood Knives? This is Steven, your host from Fantology, with my lifelong friend Jake and my not as lifelong friend Caden, but familial ties there that will be binding us for life. I started this new intro where I say lifelong friends, and then as I was about to do, I was like, wait, I haven't known Caden my whole life. But he is my brother-in-law, and we are excited to have you here, Caden, for another Wheel of Time episode reviewing Book 12, The Gathering Storm. So, guys, how are we? Are we excited for this one?
I am. It was great. I loved every minute of it. It was, action-packed and really good book.
Yeah, there's some game-changing moments in this one for sure.
And we can't go too far without talking about the elephant in the room. As soon as you get to the last three, which is the Sanderson takeover, right? So we are Sanderson fans. We've read all of his books. I think, Caden, have you read all of his books, actually? Maybe that's it.
I haven't read a couple of the YA ones.
Okay.
Like Steelheart.
Same.
But
yeah,
everything else I have.
Yeah, I haven't read his Alcatraz books either, like Rhythmatist, but
yeah.
All the Cosmere stuff, right? So
we're
we're big Sanderson fanboys, but if we can, separate the Sanderson Cosmere fandom from the Wheel of Time fandom, and can we just like objectively try to get at like what was the Sanderson influence on this book, and did you like it, and what did you see?
I had a hard time. I thought his writing style would be more noticeable, and I felt like he was very true to Robert Jordan's style, like the way he described things or all the braid pulling that still happened. I don't know. I think there was some not just that, but like I was surprised. I thought like he tried to be very true to what Robert Jordan would have done. Overall, was my impression.
Yeah, I read some reviews. Sorry, Jake. I read the review that Jason at Dragon Mount posted of I think of The Gathering Storm back in 2009 when it came out, and he talked about how like some characters he thought were a little bit off and different, but then other people thought that others were, and so it's all just kind of a different lens, I guess, or different, a different take on the series than Robert Jordan. Sanderson talked about it as like a same story, same script, different director. So yeah, certainly he tried to do his best, and certainly, he would be the first one to tell you that there were some things that he didn't do as well. And I think he actually did say like through the first book, he had a hard time really immersing himself in like what Robert Jordan would have done. And then he felt like he found his feet better in the last two. What did you think, Jake?
Yeah, I feel like when I first read it, there was definitely a difference in writing, but it wasn't anything to be like, it wasn't like a lower quality, if that makes sense. It was just different, and I was fine with that. I think he's been on record to say that he made the decision that he wasn't going to like try to replicate Robert Jordan one-to-one because he wouldn't have been able to pull that off. And so it was, if he had to do it, he'd have to do it the way he knew how, which is why I think there is a difference. I think he did a really good job keeping the characters true to who they were, with, for me, a notable exception with Matt, his portrayal of Matt in this book especially. And I think he's even admitted that was something he wasn't sure about. And that was one of those things he kind of tuned more as the books went on. But again, is definitely a different Matt than I was used to, and it was different than Robert Jordan's version of him, but it wasn't like a lower quality Matt for me, if that makes sense.
So some would say that he recast Matt. Ooh, too soon, maybe.
Hopefully not that drastic.
Oh man, that was too perfect. It's the curse of Matt. We're gonna see in the next 100 years probably 30 different adaptations of the Wheel of Time, like different versions of it, and it's gonna kind of like be like Dune, how there's this curse of every Dune adaptation. in every adaptation of the Wheel of Time, there's going to be something wrong with the Matt casting or character.
Come on, Dune broke the curse, right? They're making part 2 now, and it seems to be on the way to maybe 3 movies as well.
Yeah, I feel like they broke the curse with Dune. Anyways.
Kate, what do you think about Matt?
Yeah, I definitely thought he was different, but I was like, until we started talking about it now, I thought it was more due to like just like what's going on in his storyline with getting married to Tuan kinda, and then leaving. And so I kind of attributed it more to just like him growing, even his differences than the betrayal. But I guess I wasn't really thinking about it, and I can, so I think there's a little bit of both happening, I think.
Yeah.
I think what it was for me specifically was there are a couple times where Matt almost told jokes in this book, and Matt is a funny character, but before this book, it was more he's in a funny circumstance and he's reacting to it in a way that's humorous. Whereas this one, he like almost became like a comedian.
Is this the women are like goats? Is that in this book? Okay.
Yeah. That's specifically what I'm thinking.
It seems like that does, looking back, it seemed a little forced to the point where I was able to remember that just offhand.
Yeah. But like, again, for me, it wasn't like a drop in quality, really. It was just different.
Yeah.
Like you still had Matt being true to gambling too much to where it got him into trouble.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
and he wasn't in the book very much. It was really just like 2 or 3 chapters. So this was very much the Rand and Egwene show in this one. And both plot lines are really good. Like they have pretty good arcs that really get to points that Robert Jordan had been wanting to take them for years. And now that we've got to this like big character moment for each one of them, it's gone on books and books of build. And so what a payoff by the end for both of those characters.
I think Egwene's was better for me. Her multiple scenes were the best out of the book.
Okay.
That's interesting. Go ahead.
Which I was surprised by. But like the first scene where she like defies Elida, right? She's like I think she was serving her dinner or something, right? And then just like loses it, and everything you're saying, you're just like, wow, this is everything I've wanted to say to Elida for the last 10 books. And it was just like, yes, finally, right? And you're like, things are finally starting to happen here. And then just like the battle with the Sanchan, it was just like, I wanted a little bit more out of it. Like, I thought it was more, just meaning like, she did amazing, but I
you wanted it to go on long. Sure.
Yeah, if that.
Or action. Yeah, it was just a raid, not a full-on battle, which would have
Right.
been really cool.
Yeah,
there's more action to come. Don't worry. You want action, you'll get action.
I am sure. I was just like, like you're like, Egwene is super awesome right now. Like, let's keep that going. I mean, not that she isn't after, but so yeah, I think Egwene's parts were very satisfying. Waiting for those to happen.
I agree with that. Oh, go ahead.
No, yeah.
I was gonna say I agree with that. I think Egwene had awesome moments in this book, and she's definitely one of like the most interesting parts to read. I'm just surprised that you picked her over Rand, because to me Rand's moment is like, it's like what you've been waiting for since book 4, maybe.
Yeah. Okay. So here's my problem with Rand. Or I don't know if I can describe it really well, but I didn't feel like it didn't make sense logically in my head how it all came together. And suddenly he's like, oh yeah, we live again so we can make things right in love. And then suddenly it just like, boom, happy. And we're gonna like that part just seemed like it was a little forced, I think, to me.
I mean, all the pieces of his life were falling apart. And I think his father, almost killing Tam was very important in this. I think the pieces the veins are there.
Of gold.
Yeah.
Like the veins of gold was a huge moment, right? With the like him feeling the bond with Avienda, Elaine, and Men, and feeling the love they had for him. That was this book, right? I'm not.
It was
Yes,
this book.
it is.
Yes.
Yeah,
It
like
is
that's
this
like
book.
that's when
Yeah.
he's on
Yes.
Dragonmount, right? That was
Yes.
like part of his like him being broken down to this like pulverized person trying to be so hard, and then having that realization that it's all worth it for love, and feeling the love of them for him. I don't know. I thought that was all super powerful. It almost makes the polygamy worth it.
I have the unpopular opinion here, yeah, but I don't know. It just like it's like, of course it's for love, like, you know, like that's just like the classic, like, I don't know. It just wasn't really that. Like, I feel like the hype was too big for what happened, even though you've been waiting for a long time, but just like how foreshadowed, like, oh, Catsway's going to teach you something so important, and like you're like, yeah, we know he needs to let that, you know, not be so hard, right? And it just, I don't know. It wasn't as exciting to me as Egwene, like tearing apart Sanchan. So
Yeah.
I mean, it was a much more cerebral moment, more,
yeah.
you know, even you could say like more meta, more in his head through all of that. Yeah.
I just like even the moment when Egwene's like just talking to Elida, right, and just like saying all these things, like that part like impacted me more as a reader. I know not every reader, but me than like that scene on Dragonmount. So
I have a lot of thoughts right now. I wonder if part of it is because I had reread so many of the earlier books before reading this one, that like my first time reading through, honestly, like I wasn't really as into Rand's plot line. And then like the more I reread them, the more I kind of felt for him and really connected with his plight of like having all this responsibility and like the duty heavier than a mountain, and trying to deal with that, and him not being a person who naturally would want to be so hard, but thinking this is the only way I have to do it. And so I think like the repetition of reading that made me connect more with him for this moment.
So you're saying Caden has read the books one time, but you've read like, you know, tens of books of like Rand becoming harder and harder and dealing with all this stuff.
So it was
so
a huge
just pounded into your head.
Yeah. And I think each time I read it, I connect more with Rand specifically. And that's probably me. That's just like me personally, how I consume these books. So that might be why it's more impactful. I have a question though. Like, I feel like we asked you this last time, but I can't remember your answer. Did you expect this, or did you expect this moment of like self, like realization for Rand, or did you think he was going to be hard up until the end?
No, I figured that whatever, like, because Min had her viewing, that he would learn, like, something would happen that made him like care about people again. Okay. I didn't expect it happening in this book though. That like at the very end, I thought things had wrapped up, and I was like, all right, like I didn't expect it so soon. I mean, like 2 chapters before, he's, you know, using Balefire to right. And okay, and so here's where I think at that point I'm like on the side with like Nynaeve and Catsway, almost like this guy's got to be stopped, right? Like he's just insane, and like I can't relate with Rand at all at this point because he's just killing everyone, right? It's for a good reason. Like, I mean, I think he should have killed what's Semirog sooner, right? Like leaving her alive longer was a mistake, but
and like that's having kind of and having the Dominion band like right there, like, man, that was just a critical mistake. Like, how
the entire time what's coming? Like, it's not a Yep. So I think that's why I think I have a hard So I do think I have a lot harder time identifying with Rand, just because like I'm seeing it from Catswain, or like I'm identifying more with them. Like, man, this guy needs to be stopped, and so I'm just
And I think I empathize with him more due to those like the different iterations of my like read throughs. But I think that Semiraj moment is such like, it's so pivotal. It's like the reason why Natrim's Barrow happens, because he's like realized I wasn't hard enough, and that's why I almost killed Men. Like, and she like she obviously still loves him, but she's like scared, you know? And so he's just like, all right, screw everything. like way more callous when it comes to like respecting life and everything. I don't know. I think it was perfectly set up in this book. Like his hardness was ramped up to 11, and then I don't know, just the moment on Dragon Mount, and I don't know, him having that happen on Dragon Mount too. And I'm going off on just a little rant here, but like the whole process of it, like meeting Tam, having that explosive moment, not being in control, like he has this like view of himself, like, oh, I'm going to be harder. And part of being harder is being more in control of myself. But the harder he gets, the less in control of himself he is, the more fragile he is emotionally and more impulsive, which leads him to exploding on Rand, which then leads him to like being so scared he runs. He's like, okay, I got to take out these emotions on the Shan Chan, going to Ebu Dar, realizing these people are like living better under the Shan Chan than like half the people living under my rule, and just like having this utter failure moment, and the like being pitied by people on the street there. I don't know. It was such a great emotional journey.
One that I hope I never go on.
Yeah. Anyways,
honestly,
that was
I also enjoyed it. I think I like the prologue of Towers of Midnight more, actually, or maybe that just stuck with me even a little bit more than the moment of Dragon Mount. Obviously, that's a spoiler for the next book, so we can't talk about it now. But I don't know if you've started Towers of Midnight yet, Kaden, but that's just like a small moment that really illustrates the change, and I thought it was even more powerful.
And I think the reason why is because all the change that happens is in his head at the end of the Gathering Storm. And then in the prologue, you get to see, what does that mean? Like, how is he going to act differently now?
Okay.
So we just didn't get that far in the Gathering Storm. But anyways, I not to take away from Egwene at all. I think her part was so awesome. Like when we were talking about her in the White Tower last episode, like the whole time it was just like, we got to get to like the next book. We got to get to the part where she finally not only owns Elida, but like really proves herself to everybody. Anyways, I guess speaking of Egwene, did you see the like when she's doing the Black Ajah cleansing? Did you see Sheriam being Black Ajah? Were you suspecting that?
I go back and forth on it. And I think I decided that she wasn't Black Ajah before this book. And so I was like, oh yeah, it was a little bit more of a shock. Because back and forth throughout the series, I'm like, oh yeah, she totally could be. And then
because of the arrow in book 3, was it?
Yeah.
I had totally really forgotten about that. But there are clues in more recent books where she's like crying, leaving her tent.
Yeah.
Dude, and I think that was Arengar who had been like torturing her or something.
Yep. That's what she says in this book. Yeah.
You were right about Elida though, Kaden.
Yeah, that's good. At least I got one.
Yeah.
I didn't see the Perrin reveal coming either.
Okay.
That was a great one.
That was
how'd you feel about it?
Oh, I loved it. It's like the whole time too, you're like, oh man, the Black Ajah or just Black friends in general, like are the spies. Like it'd be so great like to have someone do it back to them, right? And you think that like along the whole storyline, this entire book, not this book, but like the series, and you still like, I never was like, oh yeah, they're actually going to do that, right? It just didn't feel like what would happen. So it was a great moment. I loved it. It was a great twist. And
and there are clues for that. It's in I'm going to be really vague because I think my wife can overhear me, but in book 2, there's specific times where she like lies, and it's kind of vague in the book. It's like, that it's not true, but you're like, wait, is she lying or is she just misinformed or twisting the truth? But like even way back then.
Man. Yeah, I liked it though. I was really excited. And I was glad. Sorry, go ahead.
No, okay, you go ahead. I
was gonna say the one thing I liked also about the cleansing after was that they didn't get everyone. Like, oh, they got in the rebel camp, they got most of the Black Friends, right? But in the White Tower, they didn't.
Like Masana's still there.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I like that it didn't just like wrap everything up, that it was a win, but it wasn't just like, oh yeah, we're happy. There's still, there's still conflict and problems going to happen there. So
you could say it was a win, but not the win.
Yeah.
Sorry, got to be cheesy. There's a little bit of cheese in the Wheel of Time.
A little bit,
yeah. So Sanderson, one of the things he's known for, I mean, a lot of things, but one thing that I expect from his books are lots of big twists and reveals and stuff. It's like, oh my gosh, it was there the whole time. How did I not realize it? And so he pulls off some of that stuff here in The Gathering Storm. Like Jake says, I don't think they were like his original ideas. I think very few of the things that he writes are his original ideas. A lot of it, is Robert Jordan's notes, which were very, very exhaustive, right? Very, they covered, I think, almost everything that he wanted to have written, except for some things. But, Sanderson was able to like deliver these twists. So it's kind of, I don't know, maybe it just happens to be a coincidence that the author that's known for these big twists is able to publish the last 3 books of the series and deliver all these twists that Robert Jordan wanted to have the whole time.
Yeah, I think that's really fitting. I think I was just listening to Murphy Napier's review of this book before we got on, just kind of refresh myself. And one thing she mentioned is how good Robert Jordan is at like setting up things in the future. And it's fun that Sanderson got to cash out on a lot of those. I think some people will say him setting up is also it's a blessing and a curse because things get so slow in the middle. But
I was going to say, like, all these storylines have been set up for at least 6 books, right? Or more, at the beginning. It's crazy how many books you've been waiting for a lot of these things to happen.
And Sanderson just got to swoop in and cash out, I guess.
That's another thing. Going back, like I love Sanderson, but going back to, I hate it when people say Robert Jordan was just like ended on this slog, never ended, and like Sanderson saved the series. I hate that because, first of all, Knife of Dreams was a great book. That was return to form before Sanderson. But also, of course, Sanderson's books are going to be so much more action-packed than the last 3 because it's the end. Like everything has to wrap up. Everything has to like climax. So
I would agree with it if he had ended on Crossroads of Twilight, because that book was just
that's the hardest one in my opinion.
But Knife of Dreams was really good.
Yeah.
So I was looking back in history to try to get a sense of where Sanderson's career was at this point, and for a panicked moment, I thought that perhaps like he had written this book in his late 20s or something, and he was the same age that I was. I was like, oh my gosh, like when Sanderson was my age, he was finishing The Wheel of Time. He was 34 when this book was written. So I've still got a few years to make something of my life, apparently. But, he was a very young and somewhat unproven author. And I just think like how remarkable that was for him to come in and finish this series. And what a remarkable series Wheel of Time is on its own. Like it's 14 books long. It's got this huge community that continues to be incredibly passionate. Like there are these content creators that pump out content all around Wheel of Time, even though no Wheel of Time book has been published since 2013, right? So it's an amazing series, amazing community, and really just an amazing set of circumstances that allowed Sanderson to come in and finish the series and then launch his career, which, not to say that without Wheel of Time, he wouldn't have made it there, but it certainly helped jumpstart him into all the Cosmere stuff, which is awesome on its own, right?
Yeah, I think he had like Warbreaker and Mistborn published in Elantris before.
Yeah.
And in terms of like the Cosmere.
Mm-hmm.
The full Mistborn series or just the first?
The first 3.
Okay. The first 3, I think.
Yeah.
But I think he has said that after doing the first book of the Wheel of Time, it kind of proved to his, and honestly, I don't know if it's the editor or publisher or what, but kind of proved, okay, yeah, we can give you like bigger like we can let you do your bigger ideas, like Stormlight, which came out after the first Wheel of Time. Whereas that one,
The Way of Kings came out in 2010, the year after this book.
Yeah. So I think, I think it like put it helped him prove his like that he could be trusted in that, which is cool. I also think, like you said, it is amazing that this relatively unproven author was able to like take over and complete it in such a good way. But also like, I think it's a testament to obviously Robert Jordan's notes and like the editing process as well.
For sure.
Like this like team effort of, okay, how can we make sure this sounds right and is like done in the right way to make it not feel like, again, referencing Dune, a lot, like most of the books written after the original author died are not well respected or reviewed.
Yeah, he said, I think he dedicated this book to like the team, to Team Jordan. That it was definitely not a one-man show by any means.
What were some of your other favorite moments?
Let me look through here my notes. Other favorite moments are when Suan and Garth Bryn, their little fight before going to the tower, and her bonding him as a warder. Like you knew that's been coming for, since they got together, and started traveling together back in whenever the tower fell. So yeah, that was a really good one.
Not Gawain coming in to try to save Egwene, just those two characters.
I mean, no, I'm not as excited about Gawain right now. Which is at the beginning of the book. Yeah, go ahead.
Caden, do you understand that like the whole Wheel of Time community, a large portion of the Wheel of Time community just hates Gawain, like epically hates him?
They would be fine if he was like cut completely from the TV show.
So I used to like really like Gawain's character and hated Galad, and now I'm like finding myself totally flipped on that, which is kind of.
I think that was intentional. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because not that I hate Gawain. I don't super care for him right now, but like I'm really pulling for. I mean, Galad has like what, one scene in the prologue or whatever, but you're like, anyway, yeah,
He's got a cool scene in the prologue though.
He does, very cool.
Or was that was Knife of Dreams actually?
Or maybe it was Knife of Dreams.
When he ascends to LCC.
Yeah.
Then he gets another scene in the prologue of
I think he mostly meets with Perrin in this one, right? Like they kind of have and he recognizes Morghese is in Perrin's camp. I don't hate Gawain. I like the kind of role reversal where they set you up to think Galad is this unreasonable, like black and white person, which he is, and that Gawain is the one that you should like go for, and he's Egwene's love interest. But then as things progress and the way they react to different like problems, it's interesting how Galad comes out on top. I don't hate Gawain though. I think he adds a great dynamic to the plot, and I do think I get the idea that like Egwene, once she was in the tower captured, she didn't want to be rescued, and she let that be known to Swan and stuff. But how much was Gawain in the know on that stuff? He's just trying his best.
I mean, I think they told him.
Did
Swan,
they?
Yeah, I think Swan told him like, "Hey, don't do this," and he's like, "Yeah, whatever."
But him going in to save her at the moment of the raid makes sense because it's not just.
Swan did recruit him at that time, like, "Hey, come and help." Yeah,
but he still gets berated for it.
Yeah, I feel like Egwene treats him
naturally
unfairly. Yeah.
Which doesn't. I don't think that's going to help his personality much, but. Yeah.
How long has it been at this point? How long has it been since Egwene has seen Rand, like in person?
Since book 5, right? Isn't that when she left the Wise Ones? No, book 6. Book 5? Book 6?
I ask because I don't remember, but gosh, it just seems like a really long time.
I think it's book 6. I think that's when.
It's when they're in the waste together.
Yeah, and then they come back to Carrion, and then
Yeah.
and
She
then
leaves to go to the Rebel Aes Sedai.
Yeah.
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 I think one of the things I'm looking forward to in the show is like seeing their relationships, and not just Egwene and Rand, but all the characters, seeing their relationships start at the beginning, how they're, you know, these innocent farm boys and girls, and they have these bonds, and then they go off into the world and everything happens to them. And like, what are their relationships like as time passes apart from each other, and as they grow and do their own storylines and arcs and become leaders of different groups, like, and then they meet again, and it's like, you know, looking back to book 1 or season 1, and then like to now, I think it's so interesting to see this growth and see like the trust that's there, kind of like, you know, between some of these characters, but also like not there because so much has happened and everything has changed. It's really interesting.
Well, it's really interesting to me because I love that Egwene has become the Honorland seat, right? And like she totally deserves it, and she is like acts like the Aes Sedai that you wanted her to be, and at the same time you hate that because of how she just wants to use Rand, right, or control him. And you're like, hang on a sec, you guys were friends, but you're totally just like, you're the Aes Sedai now, right? So the same reasons why I like Egwene, I almost dislike her, but I get why she's that way. Like, I'm not saying she shouldn't be, but it's kind of interesting to see both sides.
It's not like, I don't think it's really explicitly addressed from my memory, but just there's like this toxic culture in the Aes Sedai and the White Tower. Just this idea that like, okay, we know best, defer to us on all things, because obviously we know best. And it gets them in trouble throughout the series. Like the different attitudes. We see it with Cadsuane a lot. We see it with Elida, obviously in a much different light. But I feel like they kind of start to notice that when it comes to dealing with the kin and seeing how like, oh, you know, there's some things we need to change, but Egwene kind of falls for some of that same conditioning of, you know, this is Aes Sedai, this is a role we have, and people need to defer to us.
A scene I'm really excited for in the show is Matt's scenes in that town, which I can't remember the name of right now.
Hindertap,
something like that. The whole time when I was reading that, I'm like, this is intense, and I would love to see this. Like, they could pull that off. If they pull it off really well, it'd be really good. Like,
this one almost seems like a Sanderson, just because it's a total convention, right? Like, he takes the bubble of evil and he makes it into something unique, and he like kind of builds this system around like, okay, here's the bubble of evil and here's what can happen. Like, same thing with the room switching around in the tower. But the zombie, for lack of better terms, is really exciting and terrifying.
Yeah, that was fun.
Or fun, apparently, if you're Jake.
Well, it was done in like a creepy, but I think because it's from Matt's point of view, it wasn't like, it was more like swashbuckling action compared to like, it wasn't the same as like when the golem was like trying to kill him. You know, that one was much more intense. Like, okay, people are dying now, but
okay. So you're saying at this scene in the show, we shouldn't have a like dark, scary soundtrack. We should have more of like a swashbuckling, like accordion type, like, let's go kill the zombies soundtrack.
I'm thinking it should be like some Sam Raimi type horror where it's like really creepy and scary, and then we have some like slapstick stuff in there a little bit too. So you're not really sure what to think.
Who's Sam Raimi?
He's a director. He's originally known for like campy horror movies, and then he did the original Spider-Man trilogy.
Oh, okay.
Have you heard of like the Evil Dead series?
No, not much of a horror person myself, I have to say. Yeah.
One thing I think Sanderson did nail. Actually, I don't know if this is a spoiler for the next book.
Caden.
Do I need to pull my headphones off real quick?
No, you're good. How does it end with Matt? What's like Matt's final scene in this book?
He gets the letter from Perrin.
Letter from Perrin. Yeah. Yep.
And he wants to send. He's just trying to figure out how to get the band to Andor.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What does he open? What does the letter say?
He doesn't open the letter
okay.
yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perrin gives him a timeline. Perrin gives him like 10 days or 30 there's a condition to it, like 30 days if she doesn't come back, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
She says she wants him to wait at least 10, but because he doesn't want to open it, she's like, okay, well, you can wait up to 30 days or whatever the day is.
Cool.
Yeah, nothing happens with Matt in this book that's significant. Besides maybe the giving the letter, but like he didn't read it yet.
The goat women.
Yeah.
Goat monologue. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been watching Barry. It's a show on HBO about a hitman who wants to become an actor. And he's in this acting class and they're always like doing these monologues. So whenever I hear whenever I'm like reading and there's like this long monologue in the story or something, I'm always like, if I were to go to acting school, I wonder if that would be my monologue. So I wonder if I'd pick Matt's flaming goat speech to be my monologue. Or flaming, something like that. Yeah.
Hey, by that time, Jake, by the time you make it to acting school, we might be on our 5th or 6th different Matt. So you could be
Matt
up for consideration.
Yeah, that time I'd more like be Matt's father, but
also a cool role.
Also cool role. Yeah, although in the show it seems like they're darkening his family life. I don't know if you saw, Caden, Amazon Prime had like these like descriptions and like summaries of the towns and places and people, and it said Matt comes from like he comes from a family who they aren't like good people, and so he's not really sure if he's a good person. Just interesting. Really? Yeah, people think they're going to be turning his dad being like a horse trader into like more of a like horse swindler kind of person. But interesting.
I mean, I guess that could work for Matt's character, although it'd be unfortunate for his family.
Yeah, I think they're just trying to make the backstories a little more complicated. Like they're doing something with Perrin as well. Rand's already complicated enough.
They're making a big change with Perrin. I think it's all but confirmed, although it's like a little bit of a spoiler for the first episode, I'm gonna guess. So maybe we don't talk about it, but it's gonna be different.
But for Matt, I think it would fit his character, because then it would explain why they're also making him like grow up, like be like a poorer version or poorer of the friends, and so why he's more interested in like the gambling and money and that kind of stuff, and going in with him always saying I'm not a hero kind of thing. But,
and the cool golden dagger, got to get that.
Yeah, got to get that dagger. But
yeah, so Matt's not in much. There is some Perrin, but both Perrin and Matt are very brief. Anything? I mean, there wasn't a whole lot from him that stuck out. He's trying to handle his group of refugees, which once again is 100,000 people. Like the scale of some of these things is so big. I mentioned this when Rand kills 100,000 Trollocs. Like 100,000 is so many, and now Perrin has 100,000 refugees, and Ituralde, if I said his name right, is fighting like 150,000 Shan-Chan. Like these numbers just seem a little inflated to me, but whatever. Perrin's trying to handle 100,000 refugees, which, I mean, bless his heart. I don't know if I'd be able to handle like 10 refugees.
Yeah, I just default. I feel like Robert Jordan would do the research to like find the right number of people, but I'm also the type person like, oh, it's more than 1,000. Okay, it's a lot. I don't. From 1,000 to 1,000,000 is like, that's a lot of people.
Yeah,
I have no idea what that looks like.
There's a part in the prologue at the next one, so slight spoiler, but nothing really big, where Vale's like, oh look, all these people joined, and Perrin's like, oh, I didn't notice, and you're like, okay, well, how did you not notice all these people, right? Like, so I think it's kind of funny to.
I mean, maybe it's because he's already got 100,000. Like
Yeah,
Jason,
yeah.
add in 10
What's
more
another couple
thousand. Who
thousand?
cares? Yeah.
The same.
I think probably the biggest thing that happens in Perrin's plotline is Fael killing the prophet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Masima finally we get rid of him. She does do her thing where she does
The
like
memorial.
a little memorial that I think we touched on in our previous interview, or not interview, but our review of Knife of Dreams. And then there's like some infidelity discussion between the two of them that's awkward. Like their relationship is suffering from all of this trauma. What else? Oh, and Perrin tries to go back to the wolf dream. It doesn't go well. So things are not going great for Perrin.
Did you think the
Matt?
Masima thing was a good decision on her part? Bad decision?
Yeah, I think it was a good decision.
Just get it over with.
Yeah,
Like,
it was about time.
Yeah,
Like I feel like anyone else would have made that decision earlier. Like the Aes Sedai, I'm pretty sure, like 3 books ago, were like, "Hey, we should just kill him now," right? And so it was good to end it.
I think Perrin could never have done that because, first of all, Rand wanted to bring him back, and second of all, like killing someone in cold blood, like he wouldn't have been able to do that. But I think Fael had the right mindset that he was just like sick in the head. You know, he wasn't. It was more like a mercy thing than anything. Think back to Masima, and was he in book 1 or just book 2? All the way back then, when he didn't like Rand at first, and then in book 3, he's like, oh, he's the chosen one, and
yeah, that dude went fully crazy.
Yeah.
Interesting character. Rest in peace.
Yeah.
We didn't get any Elaine. No Elaine. Imagine being an Elaine fan after Knife of Dreams. You're waiting 4 years for the next book to come out. There's uncertainty about Robert Jordan being dead. They do publish the books. The next book comes out, and your favorite character isn't even in the books. Like how devastating would that be? Although what Towers of Midnight came out a year later, so she is back in that book. But
to be honest, I don't think those people even exist. So
I was gonna say, are there any Elaine fans?
There's no Elaine. Yeah, there is. I know one on this podcast.
I was hoping that Towers of Midnight would also not have Elaine and just be like a Perrin and Matt book, and so we'll see.
No, she is still an important character.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what she does.
Well, don't talk about it now. We'll talk about it in our next review.
Well, I mean, one of the things from Baron's whole thing is they reveal a couple Black Ajah people that are with our friends elsewhere, right? With Elaine and some with Rand, right? There's one with Rand still, who's at least one that I recognize, right? And so, like, there's obviously a lot going on there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Jake, so when this book came out, we were 17. Were you clued into all of this happening with Robert Jordan passing away and this next book coming out? Like, were you looking forward to this one? Because I can't remember. I don't think I had gotten through the whole series by then. I definitely remember the Towers of Midnight release because I went to the release party at the BOU bookstore in Provo, and
you got me a signed copy there.
Yeah, that was a good time. But I don't think I remember. I don't think I had quite caught up for this one.
When was Knife of Dreams published? That was like 2000.
It was 4 years. So 2000. It would have been 2005.
2005.
This came out in 2009.
Yeah, I remember when he passed away. Our friend Kaysen, who's also a big fan of the Wheel of Time, we had our 0-hour class together. And I remember in the hallway him telling me, hey, Robert Jordan passed away. And we were just like, what? Like, so devastated. But yeah, and then him, when the book came out, my family wasn't really one to buy like books the day, like before they went to paperback. So he was reading it, and I think he was reading it in our econ class, our senior year. And
so you guys were passing it back and forth.
Yeah. I think
in your high school classes.
Yeah, I think I borrowed his copy, and that was how I first read it. But yeah, very, very much anticipating this release. Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I was older so I could say like, oh, I had been reading Wheel of Time since I was 10 years old back at, when it first came out. But I guess maybe that'll be my stance on the Cosmere when it becomes a big TV adaptation in 10 years.
Yeah.
I'm terrified that Brandon Sanderson will die before he finishes the Cosmere. So reading this makes me terrified. I'm like, hey, get it all done, please.
He started a lot earlier, and he has a lot more to put out, but he also writes a lot faster.
Fast. Yeah.
I think for sure Sanderson will get out his main thesis of Cosmere within his lifespan. I know there are a couple of books that are always behind everything else.
I think he has some stretch goals. He has some stretch goals. He seems to be pretty cognizant of his own mortality and his ability to write stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Let's say he were to pass away. Who would finish his series? I have no idea. Who would finish George R. R. Martin? Who would finish? Is Rothfuss ever going to write a book 3? What if he dies? Who would finish these series?
We might get faster if he dies.
Yeah, probably, but it's hard to think that any of it would be finished as well or as seamlessly. I mean, obviously there is no perfect solution for if the author passes away, but this one was it was great.
I don't know if always finishing it with someone else is the best option. I don't know if that's
just rather leave it unpublished, unfinished.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it depends. With Robert Jordan, he was actively aware of the situation and was I want to find someone to finish this.
Yeah.
But his wife played a big part in picking. Is that what I heard? Yeah. Is that right? Did she, as it was going on, did she give input and be okay, this is going the way that he would have wanted it to go, or was it once they decide? Okay.
She's the editor. She'd been the editor of the whole series. So yeah. She was heavily involved.
Yeah, she was a fan of Sanderson's other books, and he had written this really nice eulogy after Robert Jordan passed away, and then I guess they got into some conversations and he was selected.
Yeah.
Okay, I think it is time for not the worst of the best. We don't do that on the Wheel of Time episodes. It's time for our top and bottom 3, I should say. So this one had not as many, more characters were absent, but I feel like we can come up with some top and bottom 3s. Lately, there's been some cop-out top and bottom 3. I think I chose the Trollocs last time, all the Trollocs that died as my bottom 3. That was a cop-out. You're not allowed to do that this time.
I got some decent ones this time, but I think there's going to be a lot of overlap for top and bottom, at least. Yeah. But
okay, are you starting then?
Yeah, I'll go. Top first or bottom first?
Top. Let's start with the good stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna do Rodel Iturralde, however you say his name.
Sure.
It's number 3. That guy is just a machine. Just his gumption and resilience that just never back down to the Shan-Chan and just constantly harassing them. It is this a losing battle, but he's not giving up and just going for it. And then
he was a little bit of a character before, and then seems like Sanderson really liked him. It's just hey, we're gonna up.
Yeah,
we're gonna level this guy up and make him cool.
People kept talking about him he was always. It was more people would talk about him because he's one of the great captains, but now he kind of gets more time to shine. And does Rand does he just put him does he move him in this book? I don't want to spoil it.
He sends him up. He sends him up to the Borderlands and says hey, help us out
he's
here.
he's hey, I'm gonna save you from the Shan-Chan so you don't have to fight anymore. Oh, sweet. Okay, now fight all these Trollocs up here. So he's my number 3. Egwene is my number 2, and Rand is my number 1. And honestly, Egwene and Rand are pretty much tied for me. I think Egwene probably did actually more, but I think Rand's transformation was like almost a harder thing to accomplish and has a bigger impact on the overall plot. So those are my top 3.
I'll go next. So number 3, I'm gonna put Garth Bryn in my 3rd because of how he kills the blood knife that was about to kill Swan. That moment was really cool, and yeah, also I'm excited to see where the blood knives play in the next book or 2. Number 2, I'm gonna put Perrin in because her whole life's work was right, like I don't even know how many years, but her entire life was spent figuring out who the Black Ajah are or what they're about, and all her books, right? And she delivers very well. And then I know, Jake, don't kill me for not putting Rand as number 1 here, but I'm gonna go with Egwene as number 1. No, but I just like everything I said earlier in the podcast about Egwene, and
she had an awesome book.
Yeah,
I'm also doing Egwene number 1. I'm going to start with number 1. Yeah,
and then go least exciting.
we've been waiting for this for so long. Yeah, it was awesome. She's got more to do, but just thinking back to her beginnings, her humble beginnings that we've seen on the trailer of the TV show to now, it's fun. Number 2, I'm gonna say Tuan because her raid on the White Tower was like super successful, and like for what she's trying to accomplish, she's doing it really well. Like the Shan-Chan are really well positioned, and like Rand saw in Abu Dar, they're doing better than he is. So like, are the Shan-Chan really like the enemy at all? I feel like maybe we'd be better off with Shan-Chan instead of Rand. Crazy Rand.
Also her moment of resisting the pull of Rand being ta'veren, like during their peace talks, that was a really cool moment for her. The books do such a good job. Like, she is from this culture and society that is so oppressive and bigoted and like not good, but then they show like the order that brings, and they show how cool of a person she is for being able to resist his like pull and everything, resisting the Dragon Reborn, who like no one can resist that, it's like the ultimate ta'veren, and she's just able to like brush that off. She gives me such conflicting ideas with how cool she is and how much I hate like almost everything about her.
She sees like this evil blackness around him, right?
Yeah.
You have like the scene right before Rand's like, I could will the pattern to stop you living, to Gadsplain, right? That was like 2 scenes before, and then they put that, and then the scenes right after, right? So those 2 things together are really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, and then number 3, we didn't talk about this character, and honestly, I'm just trying to choose different characters that we didn't talk about. But Avienda has a good book. She's accepted as a wise one. She's sent off to Ruidian. We don't know what's going to happen there yet, but every time someone goes to Ruidian, something interesting happens, and this is a fun thing in the future. So look for that.
Yeah.
Okay, bottom 3.
Bottom 3. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Cimaraj. Because she gets this. I think she was in my bottom 3 last book, even because she gets captured so quickly after having this surprise, and then again she gets this get out of jail free card and screws it up. I mean, I guess it wasn't really her fault. Like, she was betrayed, basically, by Rand's connection to the true power.
Yeah.
Which I wonder how much of that is a conscious betrayal by the Dark One. Like, I'm thinking it wasn't conscious, but
I think he was kind of just like, hey, whatever happens, it's fine. Like, either she succeeds or she dies, and who cares, right? It's kind of how I perceived it. And
yeah,
so
it's kind of a question.
Did you fully understand the true power thing? I remember when I was first reading it, I was like, wait, there's this other power that he can do now.
Okay, yeah, kind of, and it's because of his link to Moradin, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I've known about the true power because of they've had a couple scenes previously where Moradin uses it or someone uses it and they see the
Right.
the black flex or whatever, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know I didn't think that was what was gonna happen, that he was gonna like tap into it through that link, but it makes sense, I think.
Yeah, and it's like kind of confusing, like how he's able to do that. Like we know it's through that link, but it's like, is it something unintentional, or is it like something that could be taken away? Because it's like granted to the different Forsaken.
Right.
It isn't something they can do innately. And throwback to Viridian in book 4, when Rand sees Lanfear bore into the Dark One's prison, it's because they sensed the true power and they're like, oh, this will be a new source of power. But yeah, so I'm going to Cimaraj, and then Elida also, she gets totally owned in this book. And then I don't know what my top bottom 3 would be, honestly. Maybe Cadswain. I'll do Cadswain because
she wasn't that bad. She was a catalyst for change.
She was, but not in the way she planned, and not in a way that was stable. Like,
sure,
you know, like
the situation is very bad, let's make it worse and see what happens.
I feel like I was kind of disappointed with Cadswain as a character, and I don't know what Robert Jordan's original plan for her was, but she comes in, she's this legendary Aes Sedai in like book 6, I think is when she first appears. And she makes this pact with the Wise Ones to, we're going to make Rand laugh again and like stop him from getting so hard. And so that's been her quest. And she's kind of filled that Moraine role for a bit of like, do I trust you? Stop telling me what to do. And they come to this agreement. And then it's like she loses touch with like who Rand is, and like her efforts to make him softer are deciding to be abusive to him. And then she like tries to correct course by sending Tam, and that almost makes Rand kill Tam and just kill everything. So I was disappointed with where her arc went, but yeah, I'm gonna make her number 1 then.
I mean, he almost killed the whole world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I found this clip on YouTube, and it was a Sanderson. He was talking at some convention or something, and it's like a 30-second clip. And he mentions how in one of the drafts of one of the books he was writing, it must have been The Gathering Storm, he wrote in, and then Rand destroyed the whole world. Like just like wrote it and then deleted it real quick. He's like, I just had to write that just so I know like that was there in one of the drafts of the book somewhere. And I'm like, I wonder if it was at this point in The Gathering Storm that he did that.
Makes sense.
But
okay, Caden, bottom 3.
Bottom 3.
Right. I had some similar ones, so I'm going to change it up a little bit here. So instead of Cadswain, I would say all of the Aes Sedai present with Rand at the beginning as the spot together is number 3, because they let Semiraj or however you say it live for so long. Like I feel like they knew she was so dangerous and they still got their butts kicked, and it was just so clear that was going to happen. So that was frustrating as a reader. Number 2, I was going to put Shiriam in here, and also the other sitter who was Black Ajah with her. Like when they were about to get discovered, like Suan was just like, oh yeah, it was me, and starts kind of bragging, and then the other sitter like tries to escape and makes it like 2 feet and then gets captured. So it was a pretty weak attempt to get away, and ended sadly for them. And then number 1, just because I love it, was Elida got captured by the Sanchan, and the whole tower had fallen apart, and it was a disaster. And it was everything I hoped she'd become. So I feel bad she got captured by the Sanchan, actually, but
you did feel bad?
I do feel a little bad. Yeah. Like I bought into like the Egwene, like no person should be like entrapped by the Sanchan that can power that has the power.
Yeah. It's a little bit poetic justice just because she'd been warned of it so much and like scoffed at the idea. This was the book where she tried to build her own palace, right?
She was like, I don't know. Yeah, I didn't get that she's building her own palace, but she had took like the upper floor of the tower and was like making it into like she was just getting all these really tons of fancy things, and
she wanted them to swear a fourth oath of
the fourth.
Oh yeah, obedience to the Amerlin. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or the Cumberland seat. That's what Emily calls it.
Okay. That was your 3? Okay.
That was my 3. Yep.
Okay. Dang, I have 2. I'm trying to come up with one more. Well, I'll probably just have to copy you guys. Number 3 I'll say is Semirog for just failing and not doing anything interesting. Number 2, I'm gonna go with another Forsaken. I'm gonna say Masana, because sure, like we don't see her do much in this book, but also like she had a great opportunity to whatever she was trying to do, the entire tower was in flux. Obviously Egwene would have been the person trying to take out somehow, or whatever she was trying to do, and she does not do it. Like, this is her golden opportunity with the Shanchan. Like, she could have done whatever. She just does nothing. So Masana, that was your chance, you missed it. Number 1, controversial, Jake, you're not going to like this, but I think the bottom person in this book, it's Rand al'Thor. And
I could see him being in the bottom and the top. Yeah.
Well, so his personal arc is great, and his personal discovery and all of that is awesome, but does it do anything positive for anything in Randland in this book? No. In fact, he does like a ton of really crappy negative things to the people that he's trying to take care of.
He takes out 2 Forsaken.
Well, I guess, but at the same time, like, at what cost, right? Like, he's sacrificing a lot of the values that he wants to build he wants to build civilization on, where he's just now killing innocents for the greater good. The greater good is like always the most evil phrase in books, right? Like, whenever we sacrifice something for the good of the long term or something, and we compromise on values, that's always a bad thing. If there's some good examples of that in Stormlight Archive. So clearly this is something that Sanderson likes to weave into his books. And I think the moment where Rand just bail fires all of Natrim's Barrow, is that what it's called? Like,
but they were also
all basically dead.
Yeah, they're basically dead. Their minds were.
Come on, though. That's something that Rand would not do. That's something that he doesn't want to stand for.
He did do.
Yeah, but
he wouldn't have done it before because he was too weak. I'm just kidding. That's a soft book 4 Rand. We got Quaindiar Rand now.
Yeah. Hopefully not anymore, though, because after the bottom, after my number 1 bottom 3 spot goes through this whole book, hopefully he's better in the next book. But no, like, he was terrible in this book. He was about to destroy all of Abu Dar and then like the whole world. And fortunately, he was able to kind of come to grips there right at the end. I liked the moment. I liked his journey. I would not want him to be a part of my life in this book at all.
Yeah, I see that. You're saying all the change he made in this book, we don't see any actions on that. So he has a chance for top 3 in the next book, but this book now. Okay. Yeah,
he's got a chance, but like, I mean, there's no guarantee. Next book he could go back to being crazy, I suppose. That would be very strange. That'd be a very strange arc, but you never know. Okay. Kin, how far are you into Towers of Midnight?
About a fourth of the way through.
Okay. So you're not going to finish the whole series by the time the show comes out, which is okay.
I'm not.
But it's going to be very exciting for you watching the show and being right at the climax of the books.
I actually do like it that way.
It's going to be pretty jarring, I think, for you.
You're going to be finishing the last book while the first season is still coming out.
Yeah.
Like you'll finish the last book before Christmas.
Yeah.
So that'll be cool. You'll get to see baby Rand on screen versus this now Quain Dr. or Zen Rand. They like to call the Rand that emerges from Dragon Mount Zen Rand after his coming to peace with themselves. Yeah.
If you ever need to know the nicknames or the memes or anything like that around the series, / Jake, he's really tied into all of the deep cut fan terminology.
So I'm glad that I'm watching or about to watch the series now at this point, because I think if it was during like book 9 and 10, I wasn't as excited for the series coming out, and now I'm super pumped. So yeah, I think it's
and doing these reviews makes me pumped too, because I can remember back to these awesome moments. And honestly, like all of the stuff that's coming out for the show, like I was saying on the Discord today, anytime there are now daily things of like clips and articles and things for the show. It's coming out in 9 days at time of recording. Anytime I watch any of this, I get this like stupid, goofy grin on my face. I just get so happy and excited. It's cool that like my favorite show, or my favorite fantasy book series, is being made into a huge TV show. Couldn't be more excited.
Yeah, I brought it up at a work lunch the other day, and like no one was a Wheel of Time fan, and it was a really awkward moment.
No,
they're coming out.
They will become fans.
Yeah,
you're right.
Yeah, I've been trying to get my my coworkers into it. I have one that was pretty into Game of Thrones, so I'm like trying to fit that in. So we'll see.
It's I mean, that's like one of the biggest marketing pitches. It's the next Game of Thrones, even though we don't want it to be the next Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
that's what everyone wants to call it, the next Game of Thrones. Yeah.
I think the hard part in this tangent is there's so many people who weren't really interested in fantasy, but like we're so sucked into like who's going to sit on the Iron Throne. And there's not really that question so much in the Wheel of Time.
They're trying to do it. And I mean, all the promos, it's like, who's going to be the Dragon Reborn?
Yeah.
But that's going to be solved in at most a season. And then and even that's a very fantasy interested question. Whereas who's going to be the ruler is a much more, like, you don't have to be super into fantasy to be interested in who's going to politically come out on top.
So you're saying they need to establish some really compelling mystery or like reason to continue to watch, like reason for speculation?
I don't think they need to. I don't know if they can. Like, that is just, I mean, it's, the first book is A Game of Thrones, because I mean that's just central to A Song of Ice and Fire and the TV show. Like, that is just a central theme of it. So it's just something that is inherently different from the series. But
so they need to attach you to the characters enough so you care about the individual arcs, because that's where the series is cool. Okay.
Yeah. Maybe just the social elements as well, like the gender swapping and stuff like that. But
okay. Yeah. All right. Well, that's our review of The Gathering Storm. I guess we'll release The Towers of Midnight at some point in the next few days. Where if you're watching this and you like the Wheel of Time, check out our Wheel of Time bingo promotion that we're doing on social media. The idea is to fill out a bingo card of things you think will happen in the first season. That will be coming out soon. Actually, it's always kind of hard to juggle like time of recording and time of release. By the time we release this one, the Wheel of Time bingo thing will have been out there. And hopefully the first season of the show will not have started, or first episode of the show will not have started, but it's kind of hard to judge release schedules. Anyway, I'm going on a tangent, which probably means we're done. so Jake and Caden, thanks guys.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thanks.